Okay then. Is everybody ready to go? Ready to roll? Is everybody like rice on the seaweed?
Funny.
I am more like a summer roll.
Summer roll is the one with the rice, like rice dough thing that you roll and there are vegetables inside, right?
Yes.
Okay, so dear listeners, we are once again with you with our Inconclusion podcast, and today we have another topic that is gonna eventually end up being all about the money. But before we're doing that, let me ask my good friends. Isal, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I've been watching a few new shows these days. How about you?
I am surprised by this response, but how am I? I it's an energetic day.
Did not expect to be asked.
Suddenly.
So that's how
you
it
always
feels.
say nobody asks me, so I decided to ask you this time.
I mean, it is because, like I perhaps said earlier, whenever I go roll over people, I usually take the order of Discord. We are recording on Discord, and Izel is on one end, Enes is on the other end. So if you are wondering why either Izel or Enes, that's the reason. And I am fine. Energetic day. I was kind of surprised, startled even, I can say. But besides of that, I'm fine. I think it's a great day for episode recording. The weather is like not chokingly humid, but also not very beautiful. So you wouldn't be wanting to go outside and have fun as if you can do that
The weather
anymore.
is asking for a rain.
Yes, but rain isn't responding. Elif, how are you?
I'm good. I am enjoying myself, and when I look outside, I still see cloudy skies, yet it is warm.
Are you maybe thinking this is about you, Elif? Are you maybe thinking clouds are summoned by your presence?
Could be.
Because our audience doesn't know, Elif is actually in Turkey for this recording.
Yeah, I came here for the summer.
For this recording.
And Binali?
I am great. I have been reading a lot more. I have been able to focus a lot more. Recently, I've been getting work done, so I'm great.
Okay, that's the wrong podcast, but thank you. And finally, Enes.
I think I'm doing okay right now. It's literally the first word. I'm doing just fine. I'm like weather here is also a little bit foggy. Like it's sunny, but I can't see the far away. Like the distance is a little bit foggy. So, but it's not a weather forecast podcast, so we should.
Yeah, upon talking about, but like this is my fault because Binali tried to talk about something else and I shut him down. I am sorry, Binali. You are doing great.
But other than that, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I'm a little bit sleepy today. I woke up very late than I usually do because I watched some TV series, not TV series. Is it called still? Are they called TV series still? Because I don't watch them on TV.
Yes, we still call it TV series.
In Turkish, the word we would use would be translated as cereals.
Dizi.
Yes. Dizi, cereal.
It will be crunchy.
Yeah,
Crunchy,
once again, the
delicious.
future seeing foresight of Turkish. The word we use has nothing to do with television, so it applies to others. I think that's, by the way, the reason. Because our culture's introduction to this concept was on radio serials, and then television. So we thought, why should we change the word? That's stupid.
But aren't they called Netflix series, Amazon series?
I mean, you can if you want.
No one calls TV series them anymore.
Yeah, but I don't call Netflix, like if I'm watching something on Amazon, I'm not calling them Netflix series, right? Like it's more to indicate, hey, I'm watching this show and this show is on Amazon, so it's an
I
Amazon
mean, I
series.
think people just say series. I
Oh,
So
started
as-
watching a new series.
So as Euclid would have said, this is a huge tangent, but let me ask
even
you-
Netflix call them TV drama series or TV shows. Even Netflix show them that. So
if a show exists, like let's take House, for instance, House MD. You know it's a TV show, a TV series, but it's on a streaming platform. Do you still call it TV series then?
No, I call it
It should-
perfection because it's House.
Not my question.
Um,
no. It completely killed the vibe.
I mean, I guess it depends. Like, if it's also airing on TV, I would call it a TV. But if it's on, like, TV series, but if it's also just only made for a streaming platform, yeah.
Okay, let me throw you a curveball. If it is airing on a television, but its older seasons are on a streaming platform.
Television series for sure. Because now it's an archive.
The opposite usually happens.
I mean, why are we not just calling them series? The series
I don't-
applies to all of them.
I think Apple would sue us because we are saying Siri.
I hate Apple.
This episode already has a very strong start. So we are talking about TV. I mean, okay. We are talking about series, but whether they are binge series or episodic series, and why does this matter?
Yeah, it matters.
Can you elaborate, Elif?
I mean, I think it matters because it totally shapes the way the audience interact with a media, right? Like that can all totally change the way you produce something, the way you cast something, the monetary element, the execution element, the end product itself, the storyline, writing. It will change the way you approach the whole project, in my view. But I'm happy to hear why Binali is disagreeing with this.
I mean, before Binali can even disagree, I am gonna ask a follow-up question. Elif, you have talked about this in a very abstract sense.
Yes.
Like you are saying different things are different. Is the summary of your sentence?
I mean, not necessarily.
I would like you to ground that statement with a few like examples or more solid themes.
I was
please.
planning to like solidify it further in the episode, but what I can say is, like, for example, if you have an episode, like if you have a series that's going to be published in one season, in one back to back, maybe you don't need that many cliffhangers for the next, episode that's going to come out. Maybe you can write it in a different way, or you have to consider the budgeting and the monetary element from early on, and maybe you need to make sure that everything has to be said in one episode so that you know that it will get a second season. But when it's an episodic release, sometimes there are pilot episodes like back in the day, and even the casting can change after the pilot, or sometimes seasons will not finish because it was released in episodic end. Or you can try to tell things a little bit more because maybe you got more budget and now the season, rather than 10 episodes, has to be 14 or something, or vice versa. Maybe you need to cut it short.
Mhm.
So these things do apply, and when you present the end product to the audience, it changed the perception, because when you have a whole one season, you like the audience can still watch it episodically if they desire, but the way you present it could be different. Like maybe you can do 3 episodes in 3 weeks, or you can do part 1, part 2, different gaps in between, or you can do like classical one week, 1 episode, 1 time, log in. Like, so this changed things. I don't know if this is grounded anything, but yeah.
I'm going to disagree with one thing because I think, like, intellectually, I agree that if you know that you are making something for binge watching, which a lot of like series try to take it into account. And I think when binge watching first became the norm and the series that was made after took advantage of that a lot, like a lot of series after that had the vibes of like this like mini series more like it more than a like a TV show. It's took advantage of that format. But nowadays, I think in terms of like adhering to that format, it's kind of actually worse because realistically, yeah, you don't need cliffhangers if you're making it for like one release binge watching environment. But at this point we're back to cliffhangers even more because they need you to binge watch now. Like they need
Mm-hmm.
you to continue click on the next episode now more than ever than like a weekly series because now they have to keep your attention for the whole series time series runtime. So cliffhangers are back more than ever. And
I
uh
wanna add one thing.
of
Nowadays,
course.
it's since you can leave episodes anywhere you want, so and you can continue easily. It's actually easier to stop at the middle rather than
Mhm.
Mhm.
finish at the finish of the episode. Go on, Binary.
I'd like to add up to what Izel said. Back at the day when TV shows only needed to keep you occupied for the like 1 hour airtime per week, they would have followed a structure more similar to the Star Wars chart. Do you guys know about this?
No.
Yes.
It's about how the action, how much action and intensity should be across the scenes. And the original
Yes.
Star Wars Episode 4, has a perfect graph for that people use. I will add it to the description. Basically, episodic shows would have followed that. They would start slow, build up, build up, build up, slight release, build up, slight release, build up, and finally there is this whole climax, and then it slowly goes down back to a ground similar level. Like Hitchcock would say, you don't just need to get people nervous, you need to release that
Mm-hmm.
too, in order that to be a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
And old TV shows did that, but there is another concept, exit points, which is what Izel mentions. The points where it is convenient for you to exit a show, like or exit doing something, like in the computer games, a place where you would be able to quit more easily. Binge shows, because the end of a show is a perfect organic exit point, try to force you to not get out at that point. So that's a very big difference between the narrative styles. Then episodic shows episode would by itself be entertaining, but binge shows single episode wouldn't be a unit on its own.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think if if before we like speak about more like specialized things, I think my take on it, like as a general take on it, is I liked binging shows when the shows were not made for binging, if that makes sense. Like I liked binging shows, like binging shows was a good lecture. And maybe it is not the only factor, right? Because this was like 5, 6 years ago when I had much more free time. So of course that also plays into it because now like Fallout show came out and it all came out and I'm like this is like a multi-hour commitment. This is
Mm-hmm.
almost like a movie of its own. And if it's made like I fear it is made, which is like made for binge watching, then to get a full experience, I might need to just watch it at one go or two goes. Like I can't maybe disperse it all around. And that's my take. Is I think when the shows were not made for binge watching, when shows were made as shows, and we were able to binge watch as like a bonus, binge watching felt better because you still could, if you want, like it was still structured as an episodic show, and you could start and finish whatever you want. It would be similar to watching something after it
Exactly.
aired, right? Getting a DVD box, you watch as many. But now we are like 10 years into this culture, and like the culture has shaped making of the shows extremely. I mean, some of the stuff like I have not followed the like later seasons of it, but seeing like Stranger Things, like episodes lengths go from like 40 minutes to 70 minutes
Yeah.
within a
Yeah.
season randomly. this is like madness to me. And I think a lot of it, like the way series are shot for binge watching now, puts me off from binge watching as a culture, and like from those seasons as a
Can I
result.
also add something to that? Oh,
Yes, because sometimes you uh, just one thing. Sometimes you need only one episode to watch while you are eating your lunch.
yeah, like you don't always have to watch the whole thing in one go. And it also overall makes it harder for you to watch multiple things in a multiple time. Like I used to watch many shows parallel to each other, so different genres altogether. But now, like you said, it's a really big commitment. I need to create like a chunk of time period. So I need to kind of plan it accordingly. So I cannot watch multiple things at the same time. Let's say it came out. And also the other problem I feel is the fear of spoilers. Because if you don't have the time and you decide to watch it episodically and, you know, create your own schedule accordingly, maybe people around you or your friends or online, there are tons of people who binge watched it and there's spoilers everywhere now. And you have to be constant. Like, you want to talk about the show, you've seen the first two episodes, let's say, but you cannot still have a 100% pleasant conversation because that individual is already maybe finished it and they want to talk about the juicy stuff that you haven't seen yet. And you cannot kind of explore the world in your mind in between while waiting for the episode, but it's already finished for many people. So those conversations are not as entertaining as before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think last year it was, I watched a YouTube video where they talked about, I mean, if I can find it, I will put it on the description, but if I can't find it, I won't. I'm going to keep this in the episode, but anyway, it was about how binge watching kills fandom culture and how it makes it more difficult for fandoms to appear around shows. Because, like you said, Elif, when you have a whole week to talk to your friends about what will happen next, more creativity comes out. When you sit down and watch 8 hours back to back, all you can fun speculate on is the entire show, which you can maybe do for like 1 week or 2 week or something, and then you will move on to something else. So it really decreases the amount of time you can be hyped around the show, and it destroys the fandom possibility around it. Enes.
Yeah, actually, I'm in between you two because I kind of like the archived content. I mean, like weekly published archived content, but I really like watching old, finished, and final TV series after some time. It's also because I like when things they are not really popular anymore. Then I watch them. Because I don't like watching them when they are hyped. So to see, maybe it's one part to see if they are really worth it or it's just an hype. But other than that, I really like spoilers. I really like. And I might be a special person for this, but I'm special on the other topics as well, so I wouldn't mind it. But like I can't really focus on a TV series or a series at all, or even a movie sometimes. I watched some portion of it, and I definitely have some questions about them. I need to understand the reality in this movie thing, and I go on internet and see if they have a wiki page, a fandom page, as Jandan says. And I try to find the lore of it, the and try to understand the characters in a bit. Even roughly understanding the story helps me to get into the thing as well, the series as well, and I feel more confident watching it. like sometimes if they don't have such kind of thing, or if I can't find anything at all, or if I'm not curious enough, I don't watch it afterwards. That's why, like, when I start, like, do you remember the time I watched Avatar, the live action movie? Like, I watched in like one episode, like half episode. Even though I know the story, that was not the problem with the thing. I would call it a thing. Like, I only watched the half of it. I was only able to watch the half of it. Like, it's also related to exit strategy as well. Exit strategy is completely different thing. Okay.
Exit points.
Exit point. Exit strategy is a thing that when you are founding a startup, you also define a strategy to leave the market.
I mean, it's not necessarily about startups. It's about whenever you are doing something, you need to have a way to be able to easily get out.
And earn something, money, for example.
The thing Enes doesn't have when he starts saying a long sentence is an exit strategy.
Yes, I
kind of follow up to Enes's thing though. Well, actually, I don't know how much of a follow up is. If anyone else wants to answer, they can go on. Actually,
I mean, what was the question?
There wasn't a question. I was gonna do a follow up, and I realized it didn't really fit.
If anyone has an answer, is what you said. So
no, I said follow up.
I mean, your follow up is just as legit. You're a person too. You don't have to be like, stop being so nice.
well, I was thinking about in terms of like spoil, because Enes talked about like understanding the characters, understanding the like plots, for example, and I think there is a difference between like in terms of both these things, but also in terms of like quality of a series. There's a difference between when it is like released all at once and it's released episodically in terms of reception. Because I think, and I like this is kind of thing I first realized when streaming services started releasing their big shows like episodically, and they're maybe cheaper or like low priority shows like being like all at once. The weekly format has less tolerance for like worse quality because people watch maybe one, maybe two episodes at once and let them really sink in before moving on to the next one. While when you're binge watching, you're just going next, maybe not processing as successfully as you would watching it episodically. So there are a lot of shows that release at once that has seen a lot of hype, and once that hype has moved on, people have looked back on it and went, "Oh, well, there's this issue. Why didn't we notice it?" And there's this issue, like several criticism that would maybe stick out if it was in a weekly format. So I think there is a bit of a critical reception part, like in terms of understanding the shows and their place in like maybe in the culture as well.
I want to add on something to that. Like, I think, like you said, like watching back to back is also can cause more criticism, because if the quality of the episodes are not in the similar level, let's say the first two was great and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then the third episode just flops, like horrible. Something is, especially with animation or like the quality of the story arc or the characters just flops, then you start to feel it really clearly, because you can directly compare it the episode you just watched. Whereas when it was episodically, one bad episode can be forgiven in the holistically, because you don't really remember it as much as like, I don't know, like 40 minutes before.
Elif, I I hear where you are coming from, Elif, but I don't think your experience does not reflect my experience. I am more similar to Binali in that I also think that like it is much easier to have poor quality parts in a binge show than an episodic. Not necessarily because you would stop watching in the middle. Like you would watch one episode and say, okay, I'm done with this show. But the other thing Binali said about the amount you having more time to go back and remember the bad parts and good parts too. Like upon watching 8-hour show back to back, what do you remember about that show? You remember nothing. You only remember the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, in episodic one, you process the story more, you think about it more, you look at more critically.
It's about a comedy special. You can watch 2 hours of comedy special, like comedy in like stand-up comedy, 2 hours, and you would remember maybe 3 jokes over the entire 2-hour comedy special. I think binge shows are similar. They overwhelm you with information. Unlike Binali, I think that's intentional.
Oh, I think it's intentional too.
Okay, then we agree on that regard too. Binge shows are designed in such a way that their highs keep you occupied enough so they can get away with putting bad things in between.
Yeah, like that's why I said I think they release their like higher like quality, higher, more expected shows weekly because they know those shows can stick landing, right? Those shows can keep you episodically, and maybe they put the shows they don't have much faith in a binge watching format because they know that one like this they can throw it all out there and maybe you will start watching and won't stop, and the quality breaks in between won't stop you from continuing.
Yeah, but I just don't want to generalize further to say like binge watching, like binge shows are overall by nature default worse than episodic ones. I think that will be
No.
overgeneralization. Just as a side note, please continue.
I wouldn't necessarily say binge shows are bad and episodic shows are good. However, here's the thing. They appeal to different priorities in the audience. Like, unlike Enes, I am not special. And as a general run-of-the-mill person, as an average Can Deniz, if you like, when I watch a show, I am more drawn by the characters, not the story. I care very little about the story, especially in American shows, because all American shows have basically the same story. And I am especially put off by mystery shows where like I said it earlier today, I think, under every stone there's a new mystery that leads you to a different stone, and that's basically anything done by D&D I don't like.
J.J.
Or
Abrams.
J.J. Abrams. Yeah, I
will
hate
kill
it.
you.
I hate it. Disgusting. But like that's my choice. Other people may obviously people like his stories better than they like my stories because they are famous and I'm not. But because I'm more drawn to characters and not the story, I find binge shows to be less appealing. Because in a binge show, the emphasis is more on the story.
Yeah.
And less on the characters. In an episodic show, what pulls you is characters. Like I recently binge watched and when I say binge watch, I mean over the course of several weeks, back to back, I have watched Rizzoli and Isles, which is like 8 seasons of procedural cop drama, 25 episodes each season, 40 minutes. Like from start to end, I was charmed by the characters, Rizzoli and Isles. And whenever story got weaker, and boy did it get weaker at some points at season 5. Whenever the story got weaker, my affection for the characters kept me going. That never happens in a binge show. Like actually that happened only once, but that's cheating. The show I am recently watching, As the Crow Flies, is actually one of the characters is based on a real journalist whom I like. So I kept watching the show because I like the journalist that the character is based on. Like the story isn't, but the characterization is. Doesn't matter. So I'm gonna say binge shows are worse if you are more drawn to character-driven, not character-driven stories necessarily, but if you like spending time with characters in a show, binge shows aren't for you. Episodic shows are for you. If you are more drawn to the story and if you are more drawn to the mystery box storytelling, then binge shows, my friend, my guy, has your back. Whereas episodic shows are, in my experience, worse in that type of storytelling. Because like every now and then in between few episodes, oh, we found a box, what happens? And then 3 episodes of totally unrelated things. Like that can also be done well, but usually not. Usually it's not done very well. So yeah, they aren't necessary. I firmly believe there is a distinction between the binge shows and episodic shows in terms of the stories they are better able to tell.
But I think the best way is maybe like binging an episodic show.
How so? Please explain.
I mean, X-Files. Like, have you ever tried binge X-Files? It's like basically short stories after short stories after short stories for the first 3 seasons. And I think it's fun. Like I really enjoy it. And you always have possible, exit points. But if you decide to binge it, like it gives you that option as the viewer decides to binge it, then it's great. Or like sitcoms, sitcoms tends to be episodic as well. But you can binge watch it back to back because at that point it's really binging. You're not really you are there for some sort of comfort from the similar story arc or for the similar episode structure, and you just want to have it more, and you just keep, like, it doesn't have to be a cliffhanger like in a binge formatted show, but you just want to watch it, a lot of the episodes, so you just go all in. And I think that's where it's kind of started, but then companies start to exploit this idea and turn it into a more addictive, reward-winning, what's the word? Stimulating?
Stimulating is a word.
Yeah, exactly. And it became more stimulating for the audience, and basically what we talked, like, things got hidden, a lot of highs and downs, a lot of action, rather than a complete story arc.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the on regard of the sitcoms. I think those kind of TV series are like has lots of episodes, maybe on X-Files as well. Like what on one season, you will at least like get 5 to 10 season, for example, and for each season you will at least have around 20 episodes. So that's like you can't really binge watch them. You may be watching them in chunks. Chunking is that the word?
Chunking is a word, but I am not sure if it has ever been used in this context.
It's like while looking up, while searching for this episode, I come up with a fact that binging is used, like binging is in dictionary after 2015. It's a kind of new thing that in United States they started doing it, like watching marathons with anime, because like other than that you won't have anything to binge.
There's no other way of finishing an anime than binging. Like, how are you gonna watch? If I start watching One Piece 1 week at a time, I will die before the second season.
I think like to watch the whole show, you need like 5 days.
What's the release schedule for those animes though?
I am very curious about that too. Binali, you are the anime person.
Yes. What's the question?
How are 1000 episode animes released?
Weekly.
1 episode at a week.
Yeah. I'm but like,
are you saying
for the past
20 years?
Yeah.
For the past 800 weeks.
Yeah. But like I mean, there are breaks in between, but like, I think those are like not the norm. like very rarely animes will reach that point. I think I can only think of like Detective Conan and One Piece. I think like two ongoing examples.
I will.
Most of them will release in a season, either in like 13 episodes or 25 episodes with a break in between. Like rarely it will go beyond that.
From now on and until the end of my days, if I ever hear anybody making fun of a long whole Turkish series again, I am gonna say if this was released in Japan, you would have poured honey over it and lick it. But you are doing this because it's a Turkish show.
I wanna go back and clarify one thing though, because like I think when we say binge shows, like at least when I say binge series, I don't think like all series that are released at once by like streaming platforms are like binge series. Like when I say binge series, I talk about a very specific phenomenon where a series is clearly made for binge watching, like clearly made
Mm-hmm.
with that in mind. For example, I recently watched Full of House of Usher, which was a released all at once show on Netflix, like 6 episodes. But it was not a binge series. It was not made uh, like with binge watching in mind. It was very episodic. Every episode is a like modern retelling of a Edgar Allan Poe story, and the general structure also
Oh, sounds interesting.
tells the story of like the House of Usher retelling. So like that's not a like not every series tries to take advantage of this format. So that's my point about like it. The shows does not have to adhere to this format, but financially they have to, which is like my other point, because this is something they had to take into consideration, because when you talk about when you talk with the producers of this show, like the Sandman TV show released, Netflix show released like a year, 2 years ago. And Neil Gaiman was, if it were up to me, I would just release it episodically. So people could experience that way. So there would be like more fandom around it. I would not want to, but I cannot. Like Netflix does not let me.
I mean,
Netflix
look.
wants to release it all at once.
No. Here's the thing. Look, Neil Gaiman is a nice guy. I would really love him to watch our show. He probably won't. But here's the thing. Good Omens has a fandom, which is also a Neil Gaiman thing, right?
Yes.
So maybe it's not as good a show to create fandom around. Maybe it has nothing.
No, Sandman also has a huge fandom.
Okay, then what's
it like broke Netflix records.
Does Good Omens, isn't it weekly? It's on Prime, not on Netflix.
No, it also released. It's on Amazon, but the thing is, from one of his, if I can find the post, I can also put it in the show notes. But one of his Tumblr notes was like, because Sandman was a huge success at Netflix metrics, but it took like 3 months for it to get a second season confirmation. And the reason for that is Netflix does not renew shows based on initial numbers, no matter how high they are. In fact, the higher it is harder for you to meet their match, because they want like a 70% retention
Whoa.
rate, like people who started and watched it to the end. And because the Sandman is an episodic show, like it is shot like an episodic show would be shot, people took their time watching it, and it only took like 1.5 months for people to reach that 70% retention rate. And like after that, renewal talks started, and that's why like shows do not have to adhere to this like pitfalls of like, oh, let's put a unneeded cliffhanger at the end of every episode, even though this is for binge watching. Or like, let's like make it like a whole one huge movie length thing instead of a episodic TV show with storytelling, because it has to be binge watched. Because if people start and don't finish, if people do not meet that like 70% retention rate, then they're not going to get another season, or they're not going to get another TV show. So this streaming platform intensify this kind of like storytelling where binge shows are made this way. And I think that's the like bigger shame part.
Like there are a lot of problems with the way Netflix operates, and I don't want the binge show to be described as the show on Netflix. So I mean, obviously there are different platforms too that create bingeable or binge-oriented, let's call it binge-oriented type of television or type of series. But I want to point out a different problem with that approach. Like you all talk about how it is like unnecessary cliffhangers in between episodes. But I think there's a different problem that makes it even worse. Because what if you are binge watching a show that has several seasons? In a regular TV episodic show, the authors or the creators of the show with weekly release has a chance to incorporate criticisms into their later episodes and do the corrections all along the way. What I mean is, say you have 20-week show. In the 10th week, the creators will know the problems with the first 10 episodes and they are going to try to fix the later episodes on that regard. And also, in the 10th week, you will more or less know whether that show will have a second season or not. And they can, again, tailor the story around it. I'm not saying this always happens. I am sorry, Rome. You were a great show. HBO wasted you. Like, compared to all the other garbage shows. But here, let me finish. Let me finish. However, in a binge show, every correction or every feedback is incorporated to the second season immediately. And whether it will happen or not isn't known. So it is maybe like way later, like 1 year or 2 years later, second season appears. And when it appears, because the binge show format, like I argued earlier, is more focused on storytelling than character development, the second seasons will often be a poor remakes of the first season. Like the whole first 2 episodes, they are going to break the resolution of the last season by dragging characters into the places they were at the beginning of the first season. And then have the same conflict play out with slight difference. Like maybe the girl is a guy this season. Oh my God, that's the whole thing. Like, I think one of the greatest offenders in this regard is How to Get Away with Murder's second season. Like it's the exact same story, and it wasn't anyway. My recent show I am watching, As the Crow Flies, suffers from a similar fate. Like both second and third seasons, first 2 episodes are about getting back to the status quo at the start of the first season. Like, is this good production? Do people like this? Do people like watching the same story with the same characters over and over again? Maybe they do. I don't, but maybe people do. I don't know. But yeah, I think the format of binge-oriented format forces creators to write contained, large, huge movie type contained stories in itself. So when they need to create a second season for the same content, they're in a bad place because they are trying to recreate what they did on the first one, and they usually tend not to do this in an original way. Binali, you were trying to interrupt me.
Oh, you already made your point. Like, I was gonna make a similar point, but you already
No, but you say it too. I will look smarter. Say the things, say the same things.
I was gonna say, I think it's also a part of it is also being able to see how the show itself is evolving, and when you're releasing all at once, the show is not evolving. The show is already out.
The show doesn't evolve at all.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing. Like, that's the part I agree with you.
It is kind of ironic because in computer games, you want the game to be released fully. Whereas in a show, you want them to fix the problems along the way.
Yeah. Only what if we paid the price for a finished product, actually finished something?
No, I would buy DLC of the last season of Game of Thrones. Like, the DLC is released, and what if it wasn't horrible? Like,
yeah, I would too, to be honest. Like
We
reimagine.
tie D&D to the basement
But
and
also,
get an actual guy to do the final show.
but also,
Yes.
but also, this is my thing. If season 8 of Game of Thrones was released all at once, I guarantee you, like, it would still be a horrible finale. I guarantee you the cultural impact of how horrible it is would not be as
Yeah.
big as if it like how it is released now. So that's what I mean when I say like it's easier to release a verse product when you're releasing it all at once. Because when we watched it, because we watched it as it came out back in the day, and it was an it was an escalation of catastrophes. And when you're I imagine if you were binge watching it, I mean, yeah, this whole thing is a mess, but it's all one catastrophe. It's not emotionally escalating that, oh my god, everything is horrible, you know?
Okay,
I
I
mean-
have one question.
Mhm.
When you guys binge watch, do you guys skip stuff or make it faster?
Never.
No.
Here's a problem with this question. The way I tend to watch things, like the majority of watching I do is opening it to the background while playing a computer game. So I generally don't have to. But
Got
when
it.
I'm I don't skip as a general principle. Like if a show compels me to skip, I feel like there are 1 million other shows I can be watching instead of this. Like if a show compels me to skip half of it, then maybe I shouldn't be watching it.
That's a good call.
But remember, I am more attached to characters, not stories. So I don't really care about story beats. If I like spending time with characters, I like spending time with the characters. So I don't need
What
to
if
skip.
there's a character you hate and you just don't care about what they're saying and you skip it?
Oh, something very similar happened. What was it? There was this show where I hated one character in particular. What was it? I don't remember, but I soldiered through. Like I just, I created sounds like this. When that character appeared and just
That's-
soldiered on.
That's when you watch Star Trek TNG and Will Wheaton is on screen as the annoying child character.
I mean, all child characters are annoying child characters. I don't
But
really.
I think, yeah,
I don't see
never
the difference.
skip. I never skip, and I genuinely do not like. I don't know if any of you do this. I genuinely do not understand how people watch it on a faster speed, because okay, this is gonna.
This episode of
I'm gonna get
Inconclusion
pretentious. This
is
is
released on a regular speed.
I'm gonna get pretentious a little bit. I'm sorry. But
That's
if
fine.
you're binge watching at a double speed, if you're watching something on double speed, you're just watching it to consume, right? At that point, you're just watching it to
Yeah.
having it watched instead of experiencing it. Am I wrong in this? If you're watching if you're opening a TV series and it's on double speed and you're rushing through it, you're not taking anything in. You're binging it also on top of it. You're just doing that, in my mind, to say, I watched this show. Instead of, intellectually, artistically taking anything away from that show. And I think that's a shame, because I think, even if a show is not critically acclaimed, even if a show is not, the most brilliant thing ever, it has something to offer for you to watch, right? You can take something from it and it can add something to you. And I think you're robbing yourself of that experience by just this is just turning it on a check mark in a checklist. Yeah, I watched this show.
I mean, here's the thing. I am a very single player oriented person in life. I never play multiplayer. Very rarely I play multiplayer games. And in general, when I'm doing something, watching a series is included, I do it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see myself skipping some content of a show and watching only the rest of it for whatever reason. But I can imagine two possible cases where a person might want to do this. One is your friends are into the show and you want to have watched the show as well in order to communicate with your friends.
Mhm.
And the other is you want to learn how it ends or something. Whatever, I don't.
The second is
I-
me, generally.
I usually don't care how things end. In my head, nothing ever ends.
If I don't like the...
It's still going. I hope they one day make 6th season of Game of Thrones. I am very excited about that. Like it's such a popular show. I wonder why they aren't doing it. Impossible to tell.
See, I get that, but to me, ending is not in isolation to the rest of the series, right? Like for the second point, like you want to see how it ends, but to see, like, for that ending to have meaning, you also have to experience the show itself. So, like, does it matter to know the ending, see the ending of a show you just rush through?
I mean, I am not saying I do it, so I am not the person you would be asking this to. But I can imagine, like I said, if you only care about the story, like how it ends, why is this way? If that's all you care about, then you may want to go to, or like you can read the wiki. I think it's much more efficient to just read the wiki if all you care about is learning how it ends. But I am not saying this is a good idea. I am just saying this might draw people to doing this.
Yeah, I still don't really understand that. Like that is something I will never comprehend.
Yeah, like let me give you an example of a binge show that I liked in order to make it sound like I am less biased than I am. There's a show called Russian Doll on Netflix. I mean, it's a Netflix original, so it's probably on Netflix everywhere. I watched the first season, and it was amazing. It was one of the best shows I've ever watched. It was so great. It was like for the next few months, I kept thinking about the stuff in the first season. Then second season came out. And I was like, the story ended so well in the first season. Like the first season is an entire story. Has a start, has an end, has a middle. It's the whole thing. It's brilliant. I loved it. I don't want to see that resolution destroyed by the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept postponing it for like 1 year or so. And then my father watched it. And I thought maybe if I watch it too, we can talk about it. So I watched it. It was far worse than I feared. Like, it was so horrible. Like I said, first 2 episodes was about reestablishing the status quo from the first season somehow. So spoilers, by the way, because the first season, spoilers don't matter. Like, it's a great season. Second season, spoilers matter because it's horrible. Like, if you already know what's gonna happen, there's no point of watching it. In fact, there's no point of watching it even if you don't know what's gonna happen. It's so bad. I am sorry. I really like Amy Poehler. I am sorry your name is written on a work so horrible. But anyway, second season ruined. I mean, it didn't ruin. First season is still great for me. I'm just acting like second season doesn't exist. But you would want to learn how that ends. Because, like I said, it's all about how it ends. Like, all about how the, like, not necessarily ending, but how the conflict is resolved. That doesn't necessarily have to be in the final scene, but how the conflict is resolved, why the things are happening the way they are happening. So Elif, why do you watch things in double speed?
I get distracted, and it's kind of hard to focus, like overall. And yes,
To the show or to the series?
just like watching it,
Or
like overall watching things, it can get a little bit complicated and distracting, and especially I am watching a guilty pleasure, like I know the show is bad, it's rated bad, but I just watch it still. So in those cases, I can skip or speed watch through it. Or sometimes I do it if I'm rewatching a show. I just want to watch the parts that I like. I've seen it before, so I'm like, okay, let's watch the good parts, and I skip it and watch that section. It's usually like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like this episode, please follow us on social media. We are on different platforms on like Instagram, Twitter, X, or Reddit. You can write us your thoughts about watching the things in binge or like in weekly episodes, please follow us. We need that. Thank you for everything.
Not
Our
sound
dear
too desperate.
listeners.
You can make it sound a bit desperate.
No. I will let me record an alternative.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Let's sound desperate.
No. Maybe you should add this sentence. No. Maybe you should add this end of the recording. In conclusion, you can either listen it weekly or binge.
I would heavily not recommend.
And soon on YouTube.
Yeah, soon on YouTube. It's on air, so we have to do it now.